Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is Two Back or Not to Back, where we're going to go through a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns. As usual, I will have timestamps and links to everything down below. We're going to go through a few updates, a whole bunch of campaigns, upcoming campaigns next week, picks of the week, all of that stuff. But let's go ahead and get started, as usual, with our Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a segment where we go ahead and take a look at a currently available game. In this case, we have Star Trek Away Missions Battle of Wolf 359, which is a very specific name. They actually have a few expansions for this already, but this, more importantly, is available now. We're going to be going through a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns, talking about some fun games you can get your hands on, although fun games that have less reviews, less availability, you know, getting them in a year and a half, paying whatever price point for them. And for $43, you can get Star Trek Away Missions over here from Miniature Market. This is going to be one that does already have a bunch of reviews you can check out. I've just cracked the rulebook myself, prepared to dive into it, although that is not a review, that's just me being prepared to dive into it. But either way, if you want a game that you can go ahead and get your hands on now, and you know a bunch of miniatures like this in a box would easily be like, $72.49 plus $12 shipping if it was over on crowdfunding. Make no mistake, I love crowdfunding. A bunch of my favorite games are from crowdfunding, but sometimes you are paying an extra premium for that experience. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into it, although as usual, starting off with disclaimer that I do work for Gamefound. Please take that into account. While I've been doing this series for going on nearly 4 years now, I took a job with Gamefound a little over a year ago, so just take into account any conflict of interest there. And also lastly, just noting that I did mention last week or 2 weeks ago, the past 2 weeks, we've had a series of called That Is the Question, where we take a look at the various comments and questions and all the things in the comments on Two Back Not to Back. And that is a video series that we are doing, but it's kind of on hiatus for like 2 weeks because WSBG and holidays and all these various things. So last week we missed it. This coming week we won't have it. Although feel free to put any questions down below. We'll still get to them as soon as we bring that series back. Hopefully next week. I'm hoping it'll be next week, we'll see. But with that, let's go ahead and start off with updates. Starting off in the updates category, we have the Isofarian Guard second printing. This one I talked about a few weeks ago, but they had an update. They've been doing a bunch of slow reveals throughout the course of the campaign, and the newest one they have, well, not the newest update's, well, newer, but we have Fort Istra commissions. They've been adding a few things throughout the course of the campaign. More expandable stone-bound ability cards, speaking stones, new training yard challenges. But a big one is Fort Istra commissions. This is yet another way that they're trying to address the one complaint, I shouldn't say one complaint, I'm sure there are more, but the one common complaint that the game does have is that there is some degree of grind to the experience. That as good as the experience is, and it is a good experience, there is some degree of grind to it. And to that end, one of the other areas that they're again trying to address that is through Fort Istra commissions, which is a little worker placement kind of minigame where you'll earn cubes, workers, that you can then send to mine and gather resources for you. And so you're playing a different action economy little side game that prevents you from having to do that thing yourself. So instead of having to hunt around and go through extra battles just to get resources, instead, you can go ahead and have your workers play that game for you. So the game's not handing you resources, the game is giving you a way to earn those resources by giving you a little mini side game that will reduce the amount of unnecessary extra battles that you would do just for the sake of trying to mine and gather and forage for resources in the game. So I have not played with this, I cannot comment on how well it's executed, but I am very optimistic about it. It does seem exactly like what the game needs. That this is another way they've also done this in terms of the way they're giving you quest, goals and assignments and rewards for quests. The idea being that they are not just simply handing you the stuff you need, but they're giving you other ways to earn them that fall outside the normal patterns of the game. So if you prefer those combats, if you prefer those battles, you can still continue to engage in those extra battles just for the sake of harvesting resources. But if you don't, they're giving you other tools and methods to go ahead and get your hands on the things in the game. So overall, very optimistic about it. And it looks like they still have they have at least one. It looks like they still have one more thing, which is revealed sometime 24th. Maybe that's the update now. Did I just miss the newest update? Spirit Boss Challenges. I'm reading this for the first time. This wasn't here 20 minutes ago when I was researching for this. So we have the newest one, Spirit Boss Challenges, the Ultimate Battles. We're going to have the 7th edition Isofarian Guard will be Spirit Boss Challenges. This new edition special boss challenge against bosses previously defeated during the narrative. Let's dive into the details. They're going to be unlocked after your first boss has been defeated, and they're going to give you an opportunity to go against previously defeated bosses with interesting twists to elevate the difficulty significantly. I've actually fought this guy, by the way. This guy on the screen over here, I've actually fought this guy on camera, if I'm not mistaken. There should be a film playthrough of me fighting that guy. But either way, that's going to be another additional update to the Isofarian Guard. And then we have another thing coming, revealing September 27th, so keep your eyes tuned for that. And I think that this is going to be the last Two Back and Not to Back on Isofarian Guard before the campaign ends in 5 days. So this is your last chance to go ahead and jump into it over on Gamefound. And from there, moving on to the new campaign, starting off with Rolling Trains. Rolling Trains is going to be a roll and dice, roll and roll and write print and play game. We're going to be rolling dice and assigning them to a grid of actions. You can see in the top left corner over here, there's a little bit of a grid of actions. You're going to be assigning dice. Each die therefore has a value of 3 possible actions you can kind of earn from that die. And so you're going to roll those dice, earn those actions, build rails, build buildings, earn your income, try to go ahead and earn, and try to go ahead and score as high as possible using the dice selection method from the little cross grid corner, as well as the various maps you're playing as. Rolling Trains is going to have the base game available for, I think, $3, $2, £3, €3 for the game. They have a bunch of optional map packs you can unlock, as well as buying into a 1 map pack for free every single month. Well, not for free. One map pack every single month if you buy into a little bit of subscription service for the next year, giving you 12 map packs for the game. That's going to be the game over here. As usual, I say at these things, if you are actually playing your print and play games, if you are buying these games on Kickstarter and you are playing them, they are usually well worth the cost you pay for them because they are very affordable, very cheap. You can buy a bunch of them, and if they're not for you, they're not for you. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. On the other hand, if you are buying these things and not playing them, well, you know, $3 down the drain or €3 down the drain is just slightly better than €30 down the drain. So if you're not playing these, save your money. There'll always be more of these coming. If you are printing and playing these, then these are a good use of spending your money on very affordable, very easy to travel and play games. That's going to be Rolling Trains. Then we have Chants for the Old Ones, which, by the way, was a question on that is the question. Someone said, what about Chants for the Old Ones? And I was like, are you referring to Chaos for the Old Ones? I've never heard of Chants for the Old Ones. That's because I missed this campaign. This one over here, we have 5 days left to go. We have 1,300 backers. Oh, I should note, Rolling Trains over here. You kind of have, like, I don't know, a few hours to back this before you start going to late pledge, because I got to this one late. Then we have Chants for the Old Ones. $144,000 raised, 1,300 backers, 5 days to go. This is going to be a game where rather than playing as the investigators trying to defeat the old ones, you are instead playing as cultists trying to recruit the old ones, not recruit, trying to summon the old ones onto the board. It's a competitive experience in which the first player to summon the old one onto the board is going to win, but past that you're going to be dealing with a degree of deck construction. You're going to have a starting deck of cards that you can add to or remove from to try to improve your deck, while you place workers onto the board in various key locations to have to basically try to summon the old one to the board, to play a card, use its actions, move to a location, and take the actions necessary to summon the old ones as efficiently as possible in the game. There's going to be a bunch of pledge levels over here. There's going to be the €45 pledge level for the retail version of the game. We have €65, which is also going to give you the Last Cult, an immersive solo campaign. So if you are interested in this game and you're like, oh, competitive, that's not for me, well, they have a solo campaign over here you can go ahead and get for the campaign edition of the game. Then for additional €82, you're going to get the Kickstarter edition, which is also going to give you the Lovecast Mystery art book. So if you want the art book, that's an additional thing. If you don't care about the art book, well, save your money and go for that €65 pledge instead. And then we have the Cthulhu edition, which is going to give you a handcrafted miniature for the game that stands at around 6 inches tall, if I'm not mistaken. They had it on the page some over here, as far as, you know, the sizing of it. Personally, unless you're interested in all the extra bling, you probably want to be paying attention to the campaign edition for the maximum amount of gameplay out of the experience. That's going to be Chants for the Old Ones, giving you a game where you try to summon old ones onto the board. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical that it will, and this, as usual, disclaimer, more and more doing crowdfunding these days, I find most games are usually not quite as worth it as they used to be. Games are costing more than they used to be, and again, it's not against Chants for the Old Ones, it's like general across the board. I should start making this a disclaimer to the beginning of my videos, but more and more games cost a little bit more, as companies have to be mindful of the cost of the game, the cost of shipping, any degrees of unknown that might enter the picture, and so they have to be more mindful. That does mean, though, that we've seen raised prices in crowdfunding in general, and usually things that were more borderline good deal or a good deal, they've shifted more and more to being like, hey, if you want the game, these are always the easiest, best way to track down the game with all the extras, getting everything you need in the game. On the other hand, the cost versus retail, or even the cost versus what you'll get for it in the secondhand market, those just make them harder to be a good back, so to speak. And Chance for the Old Ones, I think the price point plus shipping versus what you'll get for it down the road, I'm skeptical you'll get your money back on that one. Then we have Millennia over here. Millennia is coming to you from Karma Games. These are the same people who brought you recently. They brought you, oh my gosh, the Thieves game. What was it? I can't remember what it's called, but there was a Thieves game with art by the Micho. Don't remember what it's called, but they also have Clans for Caledonia. That's going to be coming back to Kickstarter later this year with an expansion. And Millennia is their tableau building game that looks, give me like Terraforming Mars Civ building vibes over here. But Millennia is a game that's going to play across 8 rounds. Where you're going to be drafting cards in order to play those cards, but the cards are going to be both powering your tableau and what you can do, but also the cards time out. They have a limit on them. I mean, just like any technology, axes were only good for so long. So steam engines were only good for so long. And so the games have cards that, yes, you need those cards, but they are going to time out of your experience. And so you are trying to figure out how to balance a card that might last a few rounds, rounds versus the 8 rounds of the game, trying to constantly have the best tableau in play at any given point, which is a fascinating concept. And again, think Terraforming Mars, but if the cards constantly were leaving play, and so you constantly have to be on your toes to keep things moving for you. I love the concept. I love drafting. I like tableau building games. I like the idea of what this game is going for. I haven't actually played it, so I can't talk about playing it, but overall, looks very interesting. Very much has me intrigued. The board is also double-sided, so you get more variability to the experience, or the little levers you're pushing to try to maximize your points in the game. That's going to be Millennia, a competitive civilization game for 1 to 4 players with card drafting, set collection, etc., all that, and a novel system of obsolescence. And it's not the first time we've ever seen obsolescence in a game, but I like the way they're implementing it here. It looks very fascinating, very interesting, and definitely has me intrigued. And the price point of the game is great. Coming in at 29 euro for the base game for Millennia over here. That's going to be, and then we have Early Bird Millennia, which is already all gone over there, which is also 29 euro. I assume it's giving you something else extra over there, includes an extended 3-month. I don't know what the difference is in that one. I don't know what the difference in that pledge level is. But either way, the pledge level is over here. So we have a 29 euro for the game of Millennia. And then past that, shipping is going to run you, well, a variable number. Shipping is going to run you anywhere from 19 euro for the game. But what they are actually doing is something very interesting. On this campaign, on their last campaign, and on Clans of Caledonia, they're giving you the opportunity to combine shipping either on multiple games within the same campaign. So multiple copies of Millennia, or alternatively on multiple different games, so you can maximize your shipping cost per game, or minimize your shipping cost per game, by going ahead and just having all these games sitting and waiting, and they're all going to ship in your early 2020 or late 2024. It looks like they're all going to be shipping and delivering then. So you can get the price point to, I think, if I recall correctly, for the US, for 3 games, it was 27 euro, bringing your cost down to 9 euro per game, which is a much better price than the 18 euros. Literally half the price of buying a single game by getting 3 games. So that's obviously a good savings there if you are interested in everything. I think it's called Thievesdom. The other game, the one I was thinking of. But either way, that's going to be the idea over here. Past that, though, the game itself, though, the 29 euro for the game, they're not really giving you much in the ways of Kickstarter exclusive. They're just giving you discounted shipping on the game, and so the final price at retail is a big question, which I had a similar thing at Thievesdom, which is both that the price point was very good, the concept of the shipping delay and all that was very good, but ultimately the price point, the fact you weren't getting anything exclusive for the game, does change the equation because it depends on how much it costs at retail. 29 euros not bad at all, but once you factor in the shipping, even once you factor in that 9 euro shipping, you're bringing the cost down to up to, even if you buy all 3 games, your cost for the game is still going to run you around $40, and the question is how much is this going to be at retail, because it can easily be in that price range if you're getting it down the road, which means I think the price over here is good, and if you are looking at some of the extras like the metal coins over here, then go ahead and get on crowdfunding, because those things are always harder to track down at retail. But if you're interested in just getting the game at a good price point, I think you'll have that opportunity at retail as well. So I don't think this is a bad deal. I think this is a deal where you're paying roughly the same amount of money, possibly, a year and a half in advance, in order to get the same game that you can just buy at your online retail store down the road instead. So not a bad price point, but also not a great price point, which means the main motivation to me over here is either, just that FOMO aspect of being unsure, will it show up, how much retail availability, or alternatively supporting the creator. Those are good reasons to back the game. Price point wise, I think it's a par price point, not a good nor bad price point. That's going to be Millennia. Moving on, we have Creature Caravan from Red Raven Games. $197,000 raised on this one, 1,800 backers. Creature Caravan has a bunch of things going well for it, and a bunch of things that I think are missteps for the campaign. See, Creature Caravans over here is coming to you from Red Raven Games, the people who are famous for Sleeping Gods most famously, as well as a whole bunch of other games that have been incredibly successful. And Creature Caravan is both a campaign for Creature Caravan, as well as a reprinting and a special edition of Islebound, as well as an RPG for the world of Arzium. That's the theoretical aspect. The problem is the campaign is called Creature Caravan, and it really feels like it's Creature Caravan plus Islebound Special Edition as the main compelling aspect, both in price point and shipping and pledge levels. Pledge levels over here for the game, we'll talk about Creature Caravan more in a second, but there's no pledge level for just Creature Caravan. Every single pledge level comes with Islebound, and unfortunately, that's not just a little tweak, because you could go ahead and get Creature Caravan $50 over here, but the problem is you're getting all these things over here for the extras and whatnot, but you also have to pay roughly $30 shipping on these pledges to get the things, which means that by the time you factor in the shipping for a bunch of things, because they are factoring that shipping based on 2 games, you're kind of being pushed towards Islebound. So if you are just interested in Creature Caravan, the campaign's not giving you the best way for that to be the thing that is interesting to you, and especially considering Islebound's an older game, some people are like, yes, I've never had Islebound, and it's a new special edition with some tweaks and changes and things like that, and other people are like, either I have Islebound, or I never was interested in Islebound, I'm just here for Creature Caravan. So I think it's a slight misstep, both in terms of shipping, as well as in terms of the way they're presenting the pledges for the game. See, Creature Caravan is going to be a tableau building game. You're going to be grabbing various cards, and there are I think like 112 unique cards or something like that, as far as different cards that are going to drive your engine forward. The expansion, which is what you're going to get for backing on Kickstarter, because the main aspect of here, because the game itself is going to run you $50, which their games tend to be available for cheaper than that at retail down the road, for usually in the range of around I'd say $37 to around $45 depending on your online local game store, and so $50 is paying a bit more for it, but you are potentially getting the free expansion over here for the 5th and 6th player expansion over here, which also giving you 45 unique cards. So this is not just a way for 5 and 6 players to play it, but it's also giving you an additional 45 cards on top of the 100 or so cards that are in the base game as it is, all bringing you your unique ways to develop your engine. Then we have Deluxe Islebound, 4 screen printed wooden ships, so if you're getting that, you're going to get those extra, the screen printed wooden ships and metal coin set free with each pledge of Islebound Emerald Edition, so it's not included in just the upgrade pack, but if you go ahead and get the base game. And then we have Crystal Miners, an Azrium roll and write game, a print and play game more specifically, that you can get. And so those are the extras you're getting for backing now. So there are extras to be had, but those extras are, those extras, you're still paying more for the base game compared to what you'd be paying at retail. Speaking of which, one of the things they've been doing is they've been giving you add-ons. So they've been giving you, for instance, the most recent add-on is they unlocked Above and Below for $40, which is great, except you can get Above and Below right now on Amazon for $37. So as much as I am a fan of supporting the creators, although there is a tweak, I believe. I have to double check. No, not this game. Different game. Never mind. I was gonna say the base game is getting a reprinting of the rules, but that's something else we'll talk about soon. But yeah, so $40 for the base game and waiting to get it, or $37 and it could be at your doorstep in 2 days. Again, not saying you shouldn't get it on the campaign, but that is a good reason to support the creator if you're price motivated, and especially if you're time motivated as well. It's literally just cheaper to get your hands on it now. Obviously, region dependent, country dependent, all of those things. But make sure to look at the available prices for some of the things, because they are giving you a bunch of access to their games. But check the actual available prices for you at your local online game store. If you can buy it cheaper now and get it now and save money, it's hard not to recommend that overall. But past that, the campaign is a good opportunity to go ahead and guarantee availability to get some of those extras. If you are interested in a bunch of things, the price points on these things are not bad. If you're just interested in Creature Caravan, again, the problem is shipping is just putting a big blocker in the way that if you're not interested in a bunch of the new stuff, it's almost not worth considering and just waiting for retail and getting those stuff down the road. So it's in a bit of a weird place where the game itself looks very fascinating, but the bundling of things kinds of paints it slightly less attractively than it otherwise would be. For myself, Creature Caravan looks incredibly up my alley. The type of game it is feels like the kind of game experience I'd enjoy, versus Islebound still feels like a game I'd enjoy, but I don't know, Islebound just does not pull in my interest to the same level that Creature Caravan is. And that's going to be Creature Caravan over on Gamefound. Kind of semi-breakdown of the various things going on here. Lots of things that are still worth paying attention to, but definitely some question marks at the same time. Moving on over here, we have Founders. Founders over here from This Way Games. 655 backers, $50,000 raised, 15 days to go. Founders is a strategic deduction game. I'm pretty sure my child called me. Founders is a strategic deduction game. A strategic deduction in terms of the fact that you are working with another player. I have a child coming downstairs. Buddy, the light's on.
Here you go.
Thank you.
What's in the play with?
Thank you. This is from Dragon Term, otherwise known as Dragon Tower. It's a fun little Hava game. Anyways, past that, This Way, Founders is a game of strategic deduction which you're going to be trying to figure out how to score as many points as possible by teaming up with your teammates, and there are 2 teammates for every player in this game. You're going to be working on the board over here because you have 2 different colors you're trying to build patterns for. And the patterns, the tiles are all going to be placed onto the board to fulfill those patterns, and the tricky part though is you'll have a pattern for how, let's say, red scores, but so will somebody else at the table. You don't know who, but one other player at the table also has a pattern for how red scores. You don't know who that player is, nor what their pattern looks like. But you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to look at what's being placed, because at the end of the game, you're going to score for each of your colors. You score the lowest of your 2 patterns, which means it's in your best interest to make sure that you're always scoring everything efficiently. You cannot just rely on yourself. You cannot just rely on the other player. Everything has to be worked on, and so you're constantly paying attention to the patterns that are being built to find your teammate at the table. It's a fascinating game. Meanwhile, you're also trying to figure out who your opponents are, because if you can figure out what their patterns are, you can get in their way. You can both achieve your patterns while obstructing their patterns at the same time, which means you're trying to figure out both your teammates and your opponents and trying to deduce it all as you play through the game. A very fascinating thing. They have a quote on the page saying that, like I said, this is my favorite strategic deduction game from the ones I played, and it is my favorite strategic deduction. The way it handles that puzzle. Strategic deduction is a term that I heard coined by Ivy Games when they're talking about the nature of how it's not deduction in its purest form. You don't have to figure certain things out in order to win, but if you do figure things out, you are able to improve your strategy by figuring those things out. It's a game concept I've seen in in Clans, for example, in Founders over here, in Veiled Fate from Ivy Games, and Founders to me definitely does it best from the ones I've played. It's not a very common mechanic that I've seen used, but when I have seen it used, Founders to me does do it best. It's still a mechanic that I have some problems with. It's not a game I'm absolutely in love with. It's a game I very much enjoyed, and I am excited to dive into the expansion content because I have not had a chance to dive into the expansion content or legacy content for that matter in Founders. So there's a bunch of stuff that I do have a coverage of the game on my channel. You can check that out. But there's a whole bunch of elements to the game that I still have not explored, and I'm eager to do so. So that's going to be what's going on with Founders over here. So hopefully that gives you a semi-overview of the game. The actual pledge levels over here. Moving down, we have pledges. We have the standard edition of the game, which is going to run you, if we can find the sidebar, for €35, around $38 for the standard edition. And the collectors is going to run you around $95, €89, and it's going to be giving you both expansions as well as upgrades. And basically, if I did the math correctly, I think the base game plus both expansions is around €87. So you're basically paying €2 extra for the upgrades, which is easily worth it, which means if you are interested in the extra content, you should absolutely be getting the collector's edition. If you don't care about the expansions, well, you shouldn't be bothering. And we have 68 at the standard edition, and we have 476 of the collector's edition, which definitely means that is the draw over here. The collector's edition with the 2 expansions. The expansions over here, and then again, all these upgraded components, metallic tokens, custom guild pawns, 20 custom monoliths. You have silkscreen or character boards with a spot UV and linen finish, upgraded components across the board over there. And the expansions over here, we have Beyond the Earth, which is going to give you an a larger player board to add, I believe, a 5th player, if I'm not mistaken, as well as, district tokens, building tokens, renown markers, a new character. And then we have the Rise of the Guilds expansion, which is going to be giving you those legacy components, so a bunch of other tokens over here, but the legacy components and a new character board with their own asymmetric ability are going to be the features over there. And that's going to be basically what we have going on as far as this campaign. As far as the should you back, should you not, will it hold its value, all of that, it's harder to say, but I'm skeptical that it will. I've enjoyed this game, and I think it's a very, very solid game. I think it's very unique, and I think if you like strategic deduction, if you've played Clans and you like it, if you've played Veiled Fate and you like it, I think this is a game that's going to have a lot to offer for you, because you really, again, without getting heavily into it, you can watch my review. To me, it is the game that did that mechanic best. That gave me the most balance of trying to play my own game while figuring out other players at the table. So I do definitely enjoy the game. At the same time, I think the price point on it, around $95 or so, combined with the fact that you're paying for shipping as well, combined with the fact there's only 655 backers, means that there is lower demand for this one compared to Ice. They actually talked about how Ice, their previous game, they actually they undercharged for compared to what it costs, which means they're reevaluating how they approach that before that one comes back to crowdfunding. It will come back to crowdfunding at some point, but they're reapproaching how to examine that so they can actually, make money and not charge you a fortune for it. But Founders over here is a more simple, straightforward game in terms of the components, while still having some degree of upgrades, and while still giving you a very solid, very rewarding gameplay at the same time. That's going to be Founders from This Way Games. Moving on, we have Dragon Eclipse from Awakened Realms. As usual, disclaimer over here that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but just double disclaimer that Awakened Realms and Gamefound do have shared ownership. So obviously, if I work for Gamefound and I'm covering this game, please take that into account throughout the course, or if that's not helpful to you at all, just skip straight to the next timestamp and jump over to that. But Dragon Eclipse from Awakened Realms over here, $1.8 million raised, 11,000 backers, 16 days left to go. This might cross 3 million. It's going to be close, but it might cross 3 million. We'll see how well it does. But this is basically Dragon Pokemon. Although with suspiciously less dragons than I would have thought, considering the name is called Dragon Eclipse. Like, there's a whole bunch of fun little characters here. But the actual dragons, unless you're being, like, very loose with the term, it feels like the dragons are, like, I don't know, 5 of the 30 plus minis in the game. But either way, I'm not complaining. I think the minis are adorable, and I like the variety of sculpts, but the Dragon Eclipse part, definitely a little interesting there. But over here, Dragon Eclipse over here, highly recommend watching the One Stop Co-op Shop's review of the game. More so than, like, there's a bunch of content out there. There's my content, but obviously I work for Gamefound. There's a bunch of paid content, and obviously that's paid content. There's Mike from the One Stop Co-op Shop, which is completely free coverage, which I highly recommend if you're looking for, I guess, the closest to the unbiased coverage you can find here. Although there are other channels as well. There's Brian from Game Brigade. I believe Board Game Ramblings may have covered it. I'm not entirely sure. Let's go down to the videos over here. Let's go down to the videos if I can find them. Where are the videos? Gameplays and reviews. So over here, not to in any way dismiss anyone, but I mean, I'm dismissing myself as well. I'm trying to be fair over here. Yeah, Board Game Ramblings covered it. So there are a bunch of channels that cover it with unpaid coverage as well. So take that into account. I think paid coverage is totally fine. I think my own bias is what it is. But, just obviously pay attention. I guess I'm trying to call out the least biased coverage so you can give slightly more attention to that. But past that, Dragon Eclipse is a 1 to 2 player experience in which is going to be a narrative experience in which you are trying to battle with your battle with your dragons as you collect and train more dragons, as you build out their decks. The game is very compelling, they have over here, quote, 100% I enjoyed it, not even a question, which is true. I had someone comment on my Instagram being like, hey, they put that testimonial there, and I was like, yes, is there a question there? Because I did enjoy the game. I think it's a very, very solid game, very rewarding experience that, for me, one of the things that's interesting is it started off being very light, at least in my experience. You kind of, a little too light for what I was looking for in the first battle or two. But by the time you get to the final battle, at least, and again, I said this in my review, but I don't know, there were branching pathways in the campaign, and I don't know how much that was real branching pathways versus artificial, meaning effectively, I know my final boss that I faced off against before the game ended. I don't know if it's the same one for others in the prototype form, but the final boss had a fast thing. There's a little shadow mechanic going on. Fascinating enemy to play against, which was very rewarding, and again, to give you a different degree of escalation as far as how you have to approach the battle. These games start off easy, but you're gathering cards, you're building up your character, and they get a little more complicated as you go, so I found the experience rewarding, both from a sense of gathering new Pokemon, from a sense of exploring, from a sense of the pure component quality, the card quality, the art, all those things. In general, it was just a very, it was a very enjoyable experience. But again, you can watch my review there, and again, highly recommend One Stop Co-op Shop. But past that, you have all these characters over here. There's going to be a cheaper version of the game and a more expensive version of the game, as usual for Awakened Realms. So what they're going to have over here, they're going to have the miniature and the standee version. So they're showing you all of those. Obviously, they're highlighting the miniatures over here because they look cooler. But those are the things you're only getting in the special edition of the game. And another thing to factor in is this is the price point, or when we get to the price point shortly, that's the price point for the un-Sundrop miniatures, which means, and 11 Mistlings will be revealed later. Which means you have to factor in that the difference in price point. Oh, and also there's booster packs. This game is not collectible, not in the slightest. It's giving you the collectible feel if you get the special edition. Everything's going to be wrapped in booster packs that you can reseal over there. Not really reseal, repack or whatnot. But overall, the game is definitely 100% not collectible. I'm just trying to give you a collectible feel. They're trying to give you the CCG feel without the CCG price point. But past that, for the game over here, let's scroll down to the actual pledge levels over here. There's foil cards, there's all these things, there's these books over here, there's adventures, there's the add-ons. We're going to get to all that shortly, but if I can scroll down to the price points eventually, here we go. $120 over here for the Dragon Eclipse Special Edition. Now again, if you choose this over here, if you want Sundrop, you should choose that over there, and then they'll give you a Sundrop option. That's going to give you access to the miniatures and all those upgrades, but again, paying for Sundrop will cost you more for that, so factor that in. We have the base game over here, $55 for the Standard Edition, which is still giving you extras and exclusives. If you want a great way to jump into Dragon Eclipse at a very reasonable price point, but without some of the bling, the Standard Edition is going to give you a ton of gameplay. I highly, highly recommend it if you are on the fence at all about the game and you're like, hey, I want the experience, but I don't need the miniatures, or hey, I'll proxy miniatures from other games, I don't even care, because I have so many Awakened Realms games anyways that have Sundrop miniatures already that I can use here. I mean, they're not going to match the whatever. Anyways, point is, if you want the gameplay and you're not worried as much about the bling, this is a $55 for a ton of gameplay that's still going to be a very premium experience. If you're looking for the bling, it's going to run you $120 just to get the miniatures and more for Sundrop. And over here we have the collector's edition for $184, giving you basically all the various terrain add-ons, extras, the maps, the neoprene, the various everything over here. So you can spend a lot of money. You can spend anywhere between $55 plus shipping, I guess, to as high as close to around $300 to get your hands on everything, which means there's a lot of variability to this experience. But there's expansions, there's the archipelagos over here. It looks like a whole lot of fun things going on your adventure to gather and, well, I guess, I hate to say it, but to catch them all. Whole lot of things you can do to catch them all. But that's basically what we have going on over here. Past that, we have like the free alternative version of cards over here. Something else I wanted to show you, if I can find it, coming soon. Not that, not that, not these. I feel there's something else I want to talk about on this page, but now I can't remember what it was, so we're gonna have to move on. Here's the Sundrop, if you want to see some of the Sundrop. I mean, this is Awakened Realms. They do fantastic quality stuff in general, but I guess that's going to be everything Dragon Eclipse. Was there add-ons? Was it maybe add-ons looking at? No. No, no, no. Was it clicking on this over here and then seeing what they have over here? No, no, no. Yeah, you'll have to go ahead and, if we go to add to pledge over here, I'm not going to log in. English, what version do you want? Sundrop. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So the Sundrop over here, so you can see how much Sundrop is by just clicking through and making a little variation change to it. So if you want that special edition over here, it's going to run you, add to pledge over here, and the Sundrop's going to run you $41 for everything, $225 for everything on that deluxe edition, all for right now. That's basically going to be that. As far as should you back, should you not, will it hold its value? The should you back, it comes down to what you value most. And again, I think that the standard edition is going to give you a lot of gameplay for a cheaper price point, but obviously you can spend a lot of money on the bling. And as far as should it hold its value, generally yes. In general, Awakened Realms games still hold their value very well. Awakened Realms games, for all the Sundrop and the bling and all this stuff, there are always people who want them down the road, and while they do reprints, they've done reprints of Nemesis, of Tainted Grail, they've brought back new stuff in the past. At the end of the day, they don't always bring back new stuff, so there's sometimes you just don't get the older stuff, and other times you still have to wait between print runs, and in the meantime, people are trying to hunt down these games to get their hands on them. This is a very cute, accessible game. This has that Marvel United effect, which means slightly more accessible gameplay, but not a lack lack of appeal. Sometimes people are burnt out on the heavy games with 41-page rulebooks and all this stuff. So sometimes sometimes having a lighter experience is a little better, and Dragon Eclipse is a lighter experience with still enough meat on its bones, at least from what I've seen, to still be a rewarding playthrough. That's going to be Dragon Eclipse from Awakened Realms. Moving on, we have Vagrantsong. Vagrantsong, Encore, and Off the Rails. 2,400 backers, $200,000 raised, 17 days to go. Coming to you from Weird Miniatures over here. Vagrantsong, the original base game, was not even on crowdfunding. They're bringing this one back to crowdfunding with 2 expansions, Encore and Off the Rails. Encore bringing you new content, and Off the Rails, I guess arguably new content, giving you ways to explore some of the older bosses and stuff in the original game, so to re-go through some of those things. So, what's new over here? We have Off the Rails. Oh, let's go over price points so you have that first. Price points is $65 for the return trip for the new content for the game in case you want that. $130 for the new passengers, which give you the base game. So for an extra $65, you're getting the base game in addition to the new stuff. This is the point where I have to obligatorily point out to you that you could buy the base game right now for less than $65 and get it now. So if you want the game at a cheaper price point and to get the base game now, you can do so. Many online stores have the game for less than $65, and you also pay more shipping as well if you get the new Passengers Pledge. So just factor that in. I'm all for supporting the creator, but both in terms of price point and in terms of getting the game now, it just makes sense to get that game, just to buy it online yourself. Again, region dependent, find out if you have access to that, but just do your own price checking on that, because in many places the base game is available for less than $65. Not like between print runs, just like available for less than $65. You can jump into it now, and then by the time the new expansion comes, you could already have been playing the game for a year early on. So just worth pointing that out. Past that over here, we have the new Haints. We have the new Haints for the game, so it's going to have new Haints for the experience. We have new scenarios. We have the Bridge of Leaves, a 4th door that leads to the Bridge of Leaves with the new scenarios there. We have the short trip mode. That's a very big appealing aspect. Basically, Vagrantsong is comprised of multiple weaving together scenarios that you're going to go through a whole charting axis of, like, powering up your characters across, 15 scenarios or whatnot as you go through it. A bit of a branching pathways to it with some common points you're hitting. But the short trip is going to give you smaller, short trips. Exactly what it sounds like. You want to play this game across a few days instead of across, several weeks or months. They're giving you that opportunity in the Encore expansion. We have Save Your Souls scenarios over here, so you get to save your fellow vagrants for having one foot in the grave by doing the Save Your Soul scenarios. We have new skill and junk cards. We have Smoky Bones, baggage cards, train tokens, turn trackers, generic coins, and a new malady over here. So a whole bunch of new content for the game. The one that's most appealing to me is a short mode, but everything over there giving you new stuff for the game. Then we have the Encore expansion. That's not true. We have the Off the Rails expansion, which is going to be giving you the off-the-rails mode, a new mode that modifies existing content, plus DVSD's new events, Poisonberry tokens. It's going to be a new token for your orange bag that you can use to remove Haint effects or for various other actions. Again, the Smoky Bones and generic coins going to be added to the game. So a whole bunch of things for Vagrantsong. Vagrantsong, I didn't really heavily go into it, but is a boss battler where you're facing off against various Haints on a train as you try to attack them, sort of, to restore their humanity. You're not really hurting their health. Rather, everything you do is restoring their humanity to bring them back to your, I guess, side of reality or whatnot. So that's going to be what Vagrantsong is doing. You have a bunch of characters, you're taking them on, you're going through a choose your own adventure degree of, trying to manage the boss battle, trying to draw various tokens from the bindle to plan around their actions, trying to store various tokens for your own actions, lots of bag management, lots of tactical management as you go through a series of interweaving campaign adventures. That's going to be Vagrantsong. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Hard to say for sure. There are some exclusive content over here. We haven't really gone through it. If you go through the stretch goals, there's some exclusive content. There's a metal coin, the carved coin over here you can get your hands on. That's exclusive to Kickstarter. We have the exclusive, the short trip between cards, get the foil treatment. So there's little short trips, and in between cards, those are going to be foils, so they're going to be nicer there. So there's a few Kickstarter extras, a few Kickstarter exclusive things that are extra by backing the campaign now. But otherwise, you're looking at paying the shipping plus $65, which is more than what it'll be for down the road at retail, meaning you're paying a small discount MSRP plus shipping, but it'll cost you less than that down the road, meaning Encore and Off the Rails should be available collectively for less than $65 plus shipping. So you are paying more, but you are getting some Kickstarter exclusive stuff. And then, of course, there's also ways to get add-ons, and these are things you can get at conventions or online, bonus scenarios, the plushie and all that, a bunch of extra things you can get as well. But short, I guess, takeaway is I think you'll be able to get this game for cheaper down the road entirely, across the board. You can get the base game now, you can get the expansions later, but if you're looking to either get a bunch of extras and add-ons and you don't go to conventions, or alternatively, if you do want that Kickstarter exclusive stuff, then that's why to go ahead, or of course to support the creator. Those are all good reasons to get the game on Kickstarter. But I'm skeptical it'll be worth it in holding its value. Otherwise, I think it's a great game. It's gotten a lot of positive coverage across the board, but I just think that you're paying a slightly higher premium, and so far you're just not getting a lot of Kickstarter exclusive stuff, just a few small extras. I don't think that'll bridge the gap once you counter the base game price plus shipping on top of that. Moving on, we have Bone Wars over on Gamefound. Bone Wars from Game Brewer is going to be re-implementing the 19th century Great Dinosaur Rush, where you have two different factions or characters, I don't remember the names, who are both trying to do their own theories, and you're trying to take sides to a degree, helping prove various theories, helping disprove various theories, and trying to be aligned with the right side at any given point as you go through this journey in order to score as many points as possible. Bone Wars is going to be a Euro game that takes place, I believe, across 4 rounds. I'm not certain. Not certain about across 4 rounds. I feel it's 4 rounds, but either way, we'll talk about the gameplay soon. But first of all, we have the standard edition of the game, which is going to be €55 for the game. We have the deluxe edition for €75, which includes a bunch of extras plus the deluxe box, and then we have all in, which includes all the coins, the upgraded tokens, basically everything for the game for €115, which is around $125 plus shipping on top of that for the game. It's worth noting, as usual, that if you are one of Game Brewer's, they have a name for it, I don't remember what the name is called, but Game Brewer's subscribers. If you're a subscriber to Game Brewer's plan, sorry as I tilt my head to the side, I'm trying to look past the camera, but if you're a subscriber to any one of Game Brewer's plans over there, they give you 25% off those pledges. Generally, I say that's something that usually pays for itself once you're backing 2 or 3 campaigns a year from Game Brewer. They do multiple campaigns per year. They have a subscriber tier where everyone who's a subscriber gets a discount. So if you are a subscriber, well, factor that in, take that into account, because it drastically reduces your price point on these games, which is a big deal. Past that, the game is going to have you wandering around. So it is 4 game rounds. So across 4 game rounds, you're going to be playing different cards to try to improve, to try to dig for bones, to discover new species, to try to prove various theories or disprove various theories. You're going to be debunking your rivals' papers, trying to be mindful of which side you're aligned with at any given point. You're not on a side per se, but you can align with different sides as you go through different scoring in the game. You're going to be playing species cards to be able to perform different actions in the game. So a whole bunch of things going on in this Euro game as you play different card types to achieve different actions to try to efficiently score as high as possible as you can in Bone Wars. Past that, the pledge levels we already talked about, there's a bunch of add-ons as well. All of these add-ons are included in that deluxe pledge level. So the magnetic boxes, the metal coins, the 107 wooden tokens, all of these are included in that deluxe pledge over there. Past that, there's some various stretch goals, black core cards, new dinosaurs, a bone bag, all these various things being added to it. And as far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Same thing as usual with Game Brewer, which is their games tend to fall into a mid-range point where they tend to go for, if you're getting the retail version of the game, I always recommend waiting down the road. That retail standard edition over here, just wait down the road. There's no rush to get this. They'll be cheaper. You have 19 people pledging it. I think that makes sense. Their higher tiers tend to give you a lot more bling and tend to give you very, very premium games. But so far in the secondhand market, they haven't done a great job holding their value. There have been exceptions in some cases, but for the most part, they usually go for a little less than what they paid. They sell very premium experiences, but they also consistently put them out. And their games usually are pretty good, but they don't consistently put out amazing games. They consistently put out good games that have good enough ratings, and that has meant that in general, they've been a company that both has a loyal enough following that they continuously put out games every single year. Those games are, constantly put out. They have had reprints for them. What's it called? What's the one that... Stroganoff just had a reprint and expansion and a big box and all of that, but their games don't have that, every single one is smashing out of the park kind of feel that some companies tend to have, and so their games just don't do as well on the secondhand market. So if you want all the extras, you don't want to deal with secondhand market, go ahead and get it on Gamefound. If on the other hand you're looking for whether it'll hold its value or not, I'm skeptical it'll fully hold its value. You'll get a decent amount back. If you are a subscriber, that tends to change. Getting 25% off all their games, at that point getting the game, you can usually get back what you paid for it, because they usually do a decent job holding most of the value, just not all of it. That's going to be Bone Wars over on Gamefound. Moving on, we have Canopy. Canopy Evergreen, more specifically. 1,100 backers, $64,000 raised, 19 days to go. Coming to you from Weird Games, from Tim Eisner. Canopy Evergreen takes the 2-player drafting a little minigame of Canopy and turns it into a bigger box experience for like 3 to 4 players as well. Canopy Evergreen is going to have you drafting cards from various piles. You're going to have different piles of cards that are going around the board. You're going to look at different piles, choose which pile you want, but keep in mind that other piles are getting cards added to them, making them more attractive to other players. Meanwhile, you're trying to gather various species, plant various trees, trying to get the right cards to build up your engine. Again, taking the same core gameplay concept from Canopy, just extrapolating it to a larger player count and more things going on in the game as you try to gather the right sets of cards that are going to help you grow your ecosystem and score as many points as possible in this forest of cards and things and all that stuff. The pledge levels over here is going to give you, first of all, you have all these fun things over here. The retail edition of the game is giving you 4 rainforest maps, the various punchboard trees, the various wildlife cards. Speaking of trees, they're going to plant a tree for every copy sold. So if you're looking for a sustainability partner, they're trying to keep the plastic as little as possible in the game and planting a tree for every copy sold. We have 23 weather cards, plant cards, systems, tokens, the animal tokens. The animal tokens are going to be, you're going to have an animal that can help you various ways, blocking piles, making piles more useful or less useful, less appealing for the other players. That's basically going to be what's going on in the game. Pledge level wise, we have a few things going on over here. We have the deluxe edition over here. So first of all, we have the standard edition, which we just showed over there for $40 for the retail edition. We have $55 for the deluxe edition. That's going to give you a deluxe box back, some custom shaped punchboard rainforest maps, as well as the more sturdy tokens over here. So all tokens are going to be made out of wood over here, giving you just deluxified tokens. That's going to be for an additional $15. So you're paying $15 for deluxified tokens and the player boards and the box art. And then for over here for the treetop bundle for $85, you're going to get both deluxe versions of the game. So for an additional $30, you get the original Canopy as well if you're interested in that. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Hard to say. The original Canopy didn't quite as much. The original Canopy, once you paid for it, plus shipping of course, and then selling on the secondhand market, it's a game that is well liked. It has good reviews, but the deluxe version of the game didn't do a great job holding its value. I'm assuming that will be the same over here, but this one already seems to be a little bit more popular. They're doing a better job on the visual presentation in terms of obviously the player count and all that. I'm still skeptical that at $55 for the game, I'm still skeptical that once you factor in shipping, that'll be one that fully holds its value. I think it'll likely be a good game. Again, the original Canopy does have good reviews, so if you're interested in those things, if you don't want to hunt it down in the secondhand market, as usual, crowdfunding is likely your best choice. If you're looking for something that will get you your money back, if it's not a fit for you, if you play it twice and you're like, you know what, I'd rather play another game, I'm skeptical that you'll get your full amount back on Canopy Evergreen. And again, as I said already, this is usually true across the board these days. I find for like every week if I cover 15 campaigns, 3 of them are actually worth backing. The rest of them are ones that, if you're interested, that's a different conversation. Speaking of worth backing, we have Final Girl Series 3 with 6,000 backers, $1 million raised, trending towards easily 2 million, maybe 2 million. I think 19 days to go. I want to say it's going to cross 2 million safely. If I had to guess, it's not going to go that high. Doubling at this point. They just introduced the Santa Claus, something at the North Pole, which is going to change that conversation. Let's guess 1.92. Okay, 1.92. Yeah, so we're just going to go with that and see how that goes. Anyways, likely crossing 2 million or getting close to it. We have Final Girl Series 3. This, like it says, is the 3rd season of Final Girl. At this point, if you haven't heard of Final Girl, I don't know exactly where you are. Well, unless you're new to the space, in which case I know exactly where you are. But Final Girl is one of the highest rated solo games, one of the most popular solo games currently available. They have the first 2 seasons giving you a whole bunch of content for the game, giving you every single box comes with maps and killers and Final Girl. And so every box, in the first season had 5 boxes, second season had 5 boxes, third season has 5 boxes plus a standalone box. I think I'm correct in that. I think we're at 16 boxes total. I may have missed one here and there, I don't know exactly. But each box is giving you locations and killers and Final Girls and all these ways to mix and match an absolute ton of content, because you can mix and match all of that in different ways. If you have 5 boxes, that gives you, just mix and match every single thing from the boxes in different experiences, in different ways. The Final Girls are usually multiple of them, so there's even more ways to mix and match that, plus the location, plus the villain. So if you either want to be thematic and play out something that is thematically matching one movie or another, you have that opportunity. If you want to be crazy and pair up a villain from here and a scenario from here and a Final Girl from there, have that fun, have that experience. This is going to give you a solo game of rolling dice, of trying to stay ahead of the killer. Ultimately, you are the Final Girl. You are trying to rescue the various other girls from dying in the various scenario that you pick. You're trying to make sure you can power up fast enough to take down the villain, to escalate past their powers as you roll dice, as you deal with the action economy of the cards you're going to be playing, trying to power up and stay ahead of the curve. You need to stay ahead of the curve, because if at any point you don't, the game will snowball against you and you will die a horrible death and you will save nobody. And that just happens. It happens sometimes. Sometimes you have bad days, except in Final Girl, when you have a bad day, everyone dies. The game over here is going to have a few ways to go ahead and jump into it. We have the Series 3 a la carte. Buy what you want, $20 a set. Just get whatever packs you want, call it a day. Then we have the Series 3 feature films. You get all the 5 new Series 3 feature films and all the Strands and stretch goals, and you still need a core box. You still do need a core box. Final Girl system has a core box, and then just plus, all the various boxes that will give you everything else. You always need that core for the components that are used every single game. That's going to be $99 for all of that. We have the feature films and minis, $140, and then we have the ultimate box for $180. And I'll scroll down to that because the ultimate box is a lot of fun things. In the ultimate box, with a total MSRP of $300 for all the various components separately, we have the game mats on top of it, we have the various boxes, we have the 5 feature films, we have the series box over here, we have the cast and crew and bonus features box over here, the storage box that everything's being stored in, all the various miniatures, we have the Lawrence scenario book, the 5 gruesome death books, the Visionette expansion, all of these things. The only thing you do not get here is you are not getting Santa's Mall of Madness, but you will get that for $5 if I'm tracking this correctly, because if we scroll down to over here, I'm going to go through, I'm kind of skipping past the individual scenarios. There's a ton of various numerous things as far as what the content is. But we also have the final girl, the North Pole Nightmare, which started at a $30 MSRP. Once it funded, hit to $15. Currently, it's at $10. And once it hits 1.6 million on the campaign, which it almost certainly will do, you'll be down to $5, and at question mark, it'll be free. Does not include shipping, please take that into account. And they are trying to deliver that. That's completely separate, and they are trying to deliver it by Christmas to people. So they're really trying to get into people's hands. They really want this to be a fun little Christmas thing. They're not making any guarantees. They're being very smart about that. They're not saying like, hey, absolute guaranteed delivery by Christmas. They're saying, hey, we're going to do the best we can. We can't promise things. Some things are in our control, some things aren't. We're going to do the best we can because I think it'd be super fun for you to have this game by Christmas, which makes sense because, you know, Krampus, Santa, North Pole, all that stuff. That's going to be everything. An art by Ian O'Toole in this set, and that's, yeah, basically what we have over here. That's going to be everything Final Girl, or at least some degree of everything. It's hard to do everything Final Girl because of how much content there is for this game at this point. The stretch goals, the add-ons. We have the complete $549 for all 3 Ultimate boxes for absolutely everything Final Girl if you want to get it all. And honestly, if you are a huge Final Girl fan, listen, I've spent more money on Marvel Zombicide. I can't judge over here. We're not talking about anything here. But if you are someone who's not a Final Girl fan, start small. Grab a core box. Grab maybe an expansion or two. See if the game system is for you, because the game system is the game system. If you don't like a combination of characters and boxes, sure, maybe try one other combination. But if you don't like 2 of them, at that point, this system may just not be for you. It is a luck-driven system to a large degree. A lot of control, a lot of strategy, a lot of things you can do to plan and tactically approach the game so that you can win as often as possible. But yes, there are bad rolls, and yes, there's a lot of rolling dice, and there's a lot of card draw and item orders. And I had a game where I think I started my first turn, and I'm pretty sure like 8 of the girls are trying to defend died on the first turn before I could even take a single action. Sometimes the cards play out the way the cards play out. This is very much a it's a luck-driven system with a lot of strategy that you can do to mitigate and balance around the luck of the game. So make sure it's a game for you before you spend $549 on anything. Although the flip side is, if you're looking for the should you back it, will it hold its value, all of that stuff. Short version is, it mostly depends. If you look on the BGG market, if you look on eBay, if this game system is not for you, there are a lot of people, if you do have the bigger box sets with the exclusives, with the extras, if you just have a core set, it's not going to hold its value. If you're buying a single box set or whatnot, they don't hold their value at all. But if you do have the ultimate all-ins in any way, shape, or form, you know, the Season 1 all-in, the Season 2 all-in, both Season 1 and 2 all-in, there are copies you can find that have sold for below what people paid for them, but there are plenty of copies you can find that sell for above what people paid for them, which makes me believe that, yes, there are people who are selling it for less than they paid for, but if you're willing to hold out, if you're willing to find the right person, the right time, the right price, I believe you can mostly get your money back on the Final Girl series. Again, specifically if you're getting for all the extras and deluxe and all those things, if you're just buying the sort of core sets, those don't hold their value at all. That's going to be Final Girl Season 3 from Van Ryder Games, and we'll see if it ends up crossing that 2 million. I think it's going to get close. 1.92, I said? 1.92, I said. We'll find out. We'll find out. Then we have over on Gamefound, we have Beast Shattered Isles. 436,000 euro raised, 21 days left to go, 2,800 backers. Beast Shattered Isles for Studio Midhall is going to be the expansion content for Beast, and you can spend as little as, well, not that much money, or as much as like $300 and all the stuff for Beast. Beast is a hidden movement game. It's a hidden movement game that has you facing off with a bunch of hunters from a wide pool of hunters against a specific beast from a larger and growing pool of various beasts, all of them completely asymmetric with their own abilities, own ways to level up. If you want powers and abilities, this game has powers and abilities, but it also has hidden movement. If you do not like hidden movement, of tracking someone down around the board as the beast pops up, pops down, kills a little animal, wanders off into the wilderness, if you don't like hidden movement games, this is not for you, because this is very much a hidden movement game, just with powers and abilities left, right, and center, so that you're constantly on your toes as you try to figure out how to stay ahead of, well, the hunters, or stay on top of the beast using all the various tools at your disposal, and there are a lot of tools at your disposal. Meanwhile, you're going to be drafting cards every single round, trying to draft the cards you need, being mindful that you're passing the beast the cards they need, or the cards you don't want them to have, so you're constantly trying to figure out just what you need to do to stay ahead, constantly. Whichever side you are, you're just on your toes the entire time. Over on Gamefound over here, there's going to be a bunch of exclusives. So you're going to have the acrylic standees, Sundrop miniatures, additional minimap screens, and sleeves. There's a whole bunch of extra things that are going to be able to get to deluxify and improve and enhance your experience. But ultimately, at its core, this game is going to be, let's see if we can scroll down. There's so many pledges over here. We're going to jump to rewards over here. We have Beast Shadow Isles and the Great Hunt. If you're just looking for the games themselves, €120, call it a day. There's €65 for Beast Standard. If you just want to jump into Beast, €65. Obviously, make sure to check online, you know, your whatever local game store to see if you can get your hands on it cheaper as well. Same thing I've said for other campaigns. If you can get your hands on it and not wait a year and all those stuff, those things are good things to do. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned that on Vagrantsong, they did have some small updates to the rulebook. So remember I said that you can get the game cheaper than the actual game cost on Kickstarter right now. While that's true, they are making some slight changes to the rulebook, so you are getting the newest edition if you get it on Kickstarter. That's actually kind of an important point that I should have said at the time while talking about the price. So, sorry in case you didn't watch this timestamp that we're up to now. Anyways, back to Beast. Beast over here. So obviously, if you want to get the game, check the prices available in it right now. But €65 for the game, and that's an important point to hit on before we cover anything else, because for €65, you will get a great gameplay experience. Sure, there's miniatures, sure, there's acrylic standees, there's blings, there's player screens, there's all these things, but you will be getting a great game for €65, and especially if you haven't tried Beast, it is worth checking it out and seeing if it's for you, because keep in mind, like I know Dice Tower reviewed the game, Dice Tower was not for the game, and while Dice Tower does not reflect all the opinions, understand that as much as I love the game, and I do very much love the game, there are people out there who have not had quite as good a time with the experience, and you might be one of those people, and that's worth talking about before you spend as much as €300 on the all-in to get your hands on everything. Sometimes just trying a game, seeing if it's for you, is a good starting point, because trust me, there'll be people selling their copies online down the road, people selling copies on eBay or Geek Market or wherever it is, if they find out the game is not for them. So take that into account before you go too heavy on this experience. Past that, Beast and Shadow Isle standard over here, so €99 for all of that. And again, the all-in for the Great Hunt and all that, €120. If you want to go into the nice midway, we have all the content, but you're not going completely crazy, because you can go completely crazy. This is a good midway point. And then scrolling down, we have, and I'm not going to go heavily into all of these because there's so many of them, we have the Shadow Isles Deluxe for €128. We're going to be looking at player screens, at inserts. We're going to have a custom insert for the game, so let's click on it a little bit so we can kind of see what we get over here. If we scroll down, you're getting the various core miniatures, the acrylics, the standees, shadows, because miniatures, by the way, the core miniatures are completely new to this campaign, so if you have the original campaign, you don't have miniatures for your game. You have acrylic standees. Both of them are beautiful. Well, I shouldn't say that. The acrylic standees are beautiful. The miniatures, I've only seen the prototype form, so I can't speak to the final version. I will say these sculpts look beautiful, but obviously renders are renders. They always look better. There's Sundrop miniatures if you want all of those, so you can go ahead and get your hands on a ton of different ways. There's acrylic tokens left, right, and center. So again, this is giving you kind of all the new stuff, all the premium new stuff. We have a premium insert. This is a very nice insert. I don't know if you've seen the insert for the original game, but it's very, very cool looking. So lots of fun things. Promo cards, all good stuff. And we can go all the way in. We're going to skip some of these because they're very specific at the tiers they're at over there. We're going to skip all the way to €272 if you want to get absolutely everything. If you're new to the series, €272 before shipping to get your hands on all the stuff, which is, again, this is why you can spend an absolute ton of money. You want the miniatures, you want the original insert. We have all the player screens, the premium insert over here, the premium insert Shadow Isles, the premium insert for the Great Hunt. Keep in mind, before you buy those, that means you're keeping all the content in separate boxes, as opposed to if someone like me who likes to condense it all into a box and say, forget the inserts, we just want it on one box. I mean, you probably can do it with all this stuff, although the miniatures are going to make it harder. I don't know. I don't know if you'll be able to do it with all this stuff now at this point, but you could have before if you're willing to toss the inserts. So factor all those things. There's a lot of ways to spend money, lots of ways to break up those things, but I highly encourage you to like the game and think about that insert and the box management before you go too crazy on all of this. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value. Short version is the original Beast, as similar to Final Go before it. Some copies are being sold for above what people paid for them, and some are being sold for less. So it is kind of in that middle zone. I believe that if you buy Beast, if you have the deluxe edition of the game, you could get back your full what you paid for it. I also believe that I can see for a fact some people haven't, so it is kind of a mixed in the middle bag. Sometimes it just comes down to the price people are willing to pay. You pay $70 for a game, you just list it for $55, you move on with your life. Other people are like, I paid $70 for a game, I'm going to list it for $75 and see if people will pay for that. So sometimes it just comes down to people and what they're actually listing the games for, but I'm definitely seeing prices on the previous Beasts that are below and above what people paid for them, so it kind of goes in the category of I think you can get your money back, but it is going to get more and more complicated because this particular campaign has so many pledge levels that I think it's actively working against themselves. I think to a certain extent they should have had, like, 3 pledge levels and then just add-ons. And it's always tricky to do that because you kind of want to package together people's options for them, but at a certain point you make it so that it's homework to try to figure out what's actually going on, and that's tricky. I mean, even right now, I could go into all the pledge levels. The tricky part is this video is meant to be under an hour, and we're not going to be under an hour, and we still have campaigns to cover, and I just can't go through every single breakdown and every single thing. It's not even about the ability to do so, it's just about the practicality of having you watch me go through every single thing. It's a little too much. They should have had 3 pledge levels, 4 pledge levels, and then just add-ons to make it simpler. They do have which reward is right for you over here. To a certain extent, you go through it and all that. Returning backers, new backers, what if I want everything? So they do have a little bit of a breakdown over here, which can help guide your information as you go through it. But that's going to be a lot to go through. Ultimately, I think it's a fantastic game. I think it'll mostly hold its value. I think the amount of new content they have is going to make even just selling it down the road, if it's not for you, if you go on semi all in. If you go all in, it's usually a little simpler. If you just go with the core box, it's a little simpler. If you have some combination of things and you're trying to sell it down the road, you always have to find the backer who wants that exact same combination of things, which is a little trickier. People tend to fall in certain bundles, and if you don't fall into that bundle with what you bought, it's going to be a little hard to get that exact backer, the exact buyer, if it's not for you. Moving on, we have Storyburg over here. Storyburg over here, I just want to make sure as I go through this over here, I'm trying to think through, because I think, yeah, I was going to say, cool. The pause over here is I'm pretty sure I just browsed into my tabs making sure, because for Storyburg, just keep in mind as we go through this campaign, that Board Game Co. did do a paid preview for this game, so take that into account as I go through this project. In general, whenever Board Game Co., me, us, whatever, does paid content around a game, I'm going to try to disclaim that as we go through the campaign, so you are informed, so that you are aware, but sometimes I might miss it, in which case I apologize. But in the case of Storyburg, we did a paid preview. Please take that into account as we go through this. But 637 backers, $32,000 raised. Storyburg is a cooperative deck building adventure. You're going to be taking on control of various characters, Nemo and I believe Nemo and Alice, I recall, and not Alice. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. The line, not Dorothy, Nemo, Dorothy, Peter Pan. Maybe it's also Alice. It is Alice. I did it correctly. I just forgot which characters. Either way, a bunch of characters in the game in this fantasy wonderland over here. As you try to take on these characters in a story, as you build out your deck, as you try to power up your characters, so you can take down the various enemies and final bosses along the way. So again, you're taking control of various characters and building out your deck and powering up to try to win in this story-based adventure, an adventure story deck building game with no game master needed. It is like over here, like on Monique from Before You Play. Storyburg is absolutely adorable, a lighthearted narrative storytelling game. I haven't played this one myself. I do know from Meg that she very much enjoyed it and wants to get a copy to actually continue playing through it, because she had to send it on to the next person to cover it and wasn't able to continue playing it. So I know that at least she was enraptured by the game and whatnot. That's going to be Storyburg over here. Past that, as far as the pledge levels, we have $49, the early bird special for the game, and I will say, by the way, I don't love this. I do not love this one bit. This, by the way, so, and again, I paid content and all that, but I will say that they are currently doing that thing that we've talked about, Bear Mountain Adventures did, but they have that limited quantity aspect, where right now we have a 29% off, a early bird special with limited quantity of 4 left of 260, and over here we have the Kickstarter special for $59, which is going to be the Kickstarter special, and that's going to be 20 backers currently. I say I don't love this because, and again, this is my own personal opinion, and full disclaimer, there's a lot of things that are done in crowdfunding and in marketing that I am okay with and other people are not, but I'm the one doing these videos, so I'm going to say the things that I'm not okay with as well, because I'm just not. So like, we talked about funding goals, we've talked about, you know, I don't know, stretch goals, and all these various things you can do that have a degree of marketing manipulation to them to try to get people in the door with whatever degree of whatever that you're doing in marketing. Again, some of those things I'm fine with the existence of stretch goals. I recognize others might not. I'm fine with Kickstarter exclusive content. I recognize that others might not be. But on a personal level, I don't love this new trend that I'm starting to see of people doing fake limited quantity pledges. Effectively, right now, there's 20 people who are currently paying $59 on the Kickstarter special. This is the exact same pledge as the early bird special. So first of all, the 20 of you, you're unnecessarily paying an extra $10 for the game. But more importantly and worse, this limited quantity over here was $255 30 minutes ago. But right now, because there's only 4 left of 260, people are more incentivized to jump in. What they're doing is they're artificially limiting pledges so that there's a sense of scarcity when there is actually not a sense of scarcity. There is not a limited quantity of 260 of these available. I don't love it when companies, I don't love this new marketing trend. I don't love it. And again, it's my own, I am being very transparent that I am picking an arbitrary line in the sand of my own opinion of the thing I like versus the thing that I'm okay with versus the thing I don't care about. But again, ultimately I'm the one doing these videos, and so I will fight back against the thing that I don't like. I don't like the shift more towards continuously lying to the consumers. I think fake funding goals are already a problem. I think the fact that you have the incentive to lie to your backers and say, hey, we need $20,000 to fund, when really you need 60, but you can't say that. I don't like that dynamic exists. But I get that that's where we are. I get that unfortunately is what the ecosystem currently supports. So as much as I hate it, I understand it. Versus right now, this whole limited quantity thing, maybe it becomes the norm. Maybe 2 years from now, every other campaign has a limited quantity of artificially scarcity pledges. But in the meantime, every single time I see a campaign doing it, I'm going to call it out, I'm going to have a little rant, and I recognize and acknowledge that I am artificially choosing which things bother me. But my video, my platform, that's where I get to have some degree of pushback against the industry. Don't get me wrong. I think Storyburg, I wish them all the best. The people behind it, they're great people. I wish them all the best and all the success on their campaign. And I wish them all the best. I think it's a great game. I think it's a charm. I haven't played the game. From what I've seen, I think it's a great game. I think it's a charming game. I think it's a game worth paying attention to. I just hate the limited pledge thingy, and not a fan. Not a fan. That's where we are. But either way, I'm a fan of the game, not a fan of the practice. That's going to be Storyburg, an adventure deck building game. Past that, as far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value. Even at the $59, even at the $49 price point, I think ultimately while the game is charming and very accessible, once you factor in the shipping, and again, the limited amount of demand for the game. The game, 637 backers, $32,000, that's a good number, but it's not great numbers. I think it's going to be a little hard to, like, have this game down the road, and you spent, upwards of $60 to get your hands in it. I just don't think you're getting $60 back on this game. I think this game is very charming. I think it's worth paying attention to. I think it's very different. It's cooperative, deck building, combined with like a fantasy aspect. I think it is very, very. I think it's a worthwhile game to look at, see if it's good, if it's right for you. But I do not think it's one you're going to get your money back if it's not right for you. Moving on, we have Sirens. Sirens, Defrag, and 16 Candies, a tiny game series, 534 backers, $16,000 raised, 25 days to go. This is, like I said already, a tiny game series. This is giving you 3 small games in a box. Sirens, though, is going to be a 1 to 2 player game of trying to build out a sequence of cards and then playing the music at the end of it. Defrag is going to be a 1 to 2 player game of trying to move various cards around the board to try to collect the tokens. You have to go through a series of 4 games, collect the various cards you need and the various symbols you need by manipulating the cards. And then Candies, 16 Candies, is going to be a game of trying to make sure that you have the fewest candies or the most candies. You have to remember how it works. I have to remember the set collection of candies and then trying to make sure that when somebody calls out that they have the most candies, you're not the one left holding the least of the candies you have, or you'll have to eat from your pool of 16 candies, slowly depleting your life points in the game. From the 3 of these, I've played all 3 of them. Sirens, to me, is easily my favorite. Defrag, Sirens, I have a review on the channel. Defrag and 16 Candies weren't as much for me. I think Defrag was very thinky, but I don't know if I thought it was more tedious than thinky for me personally, and 16 Candies was a little on the lighter side. But then over here, we have, and then Sirens, I think, is fantastic. I think Sirens is very, very well done. Past that, we have for the games over here, we have print and play versions for $8 for all of them, Sirens for $15, Defrag for $15, 16 Candies for $15, or all 3 in a little box for $39 for the games. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value? Likely not. Small box games are very hard to hold the value on crowdfunding. Even Button Shy, who's like the king of small box games, I think or small wallet games, their games also don't hold their value. Kickstarter happens to be the best place to get your hands on them at the best price point, but they still don't sell for what people pay for them almost always. Small box games, once you factor in the shipping and the small price point and the lack of tons of exclusives, it's usually very hard for them to hold the value, and that will likely be true as well over here. So back them if you want them, but don't expect to get the money back for them if they are not for you. Moving on, we have 3 campaigns left over here. Moving on to Theme Park Mania. Again, with Theme Park Mania, disclaimer that we did paid content. We did a paid preview for Theme Park Mania. Again, I didn't play this one. Meg did. But 724 backers, $45,000 raised. Oh, and then slight disclaimer as well. They put it in their own notes, but just, so that you know. They did use AI art prompts for some of the pieces of art. I don't know to what extent. They have it in the FAQ. Please take into account to see if something that bothers you or not and all that. But 724 backers, $45,000 raised, 25 days to go. From Meeple Master, first time created. Theme Park Mania is a game about building out a theme park. You're going to be building out the park, and you'll be placing down various rides and various buildings, and you have to get your meeples to visit all the various attractions before the other players in the game, which will trigger endgame. You'll score up and see who won in the game. So lots of meeples, lots of attractions, lots of booths, lots of building out the various rides. That's going to be what's going on in Theme Park Mania over here. I believe that you have to build once 4 rides are built, or once the first 4 rounds are built, you're going to open up the park and go through the second half of the game. Either way, it's a game about building out a theme park and maximizing your points along the way as you go through it. The game is going to run you either €49 for the standard version of the game, or alternatively €72 in order to get the additional enhanced version, which is going to be the limited deluxe edition box, as well as 4 gold painted miniatures plus storage bags for every player's meeples and ticket booths for the game. So you can get extra gear, like premium content around it. Personally, by the way, I like the original box more than this. I don't think this is a slipcover though, so it's kind of, we currently have 238 people back in the standard and 409 back in the limited, so I guess I'm in the minority in that one. But either way, that's going to be Theme Park Mania. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? I'm still skeptical it will. Again, we don't have a ton of backers. We have 700 backers. That's good. It's not a ton of demand down the road. And we currently have the price point for the game, once you factor in shipping as well. You're looking at a $70 game over here, or a $65 game to get your hands on this. These types of games at retail are generally cheaper. So if you want this specific game, by all means, as usual, the easiest to get your hands on it. But as far as will it hold its value if it's not a game for you, I'm skeptical that it will. Moving on, we have Transmissions. Transmissions of the board game, the second printing. 985 backers, $40,000 raised. This is the deluxe second. This currently technically is not funded, but it's currently like so close to the goal. By the time you watch this, it will be funded, so I included it in the funded category. Usually I have a separate category at the beginning of the video for unfunded games or not yet funded games. But in the meantime, Transmissions of the board game coming to you from Adam West. This is the second printing of the game. This is going to be bringing back Transmissions with some slight tweaks to small little changes. They have a section on the changes in the game, but for the most part, there's not a lot of changes. For the most part, it's the same basic game that you either that you know and love or that you haven't played yet. But Transmissions is a rondel game of moving the robot around the map over here, trying to gather various tokens and towards a degree of set collection in the game. It's a lighter family weight game of set collection for 1 to 4 players and a rondel and set collection based systems. The game is going to come with some adorable little metal miniatures, or they'll come with adorable little miniatures, and you could upgrade to get the metal miniatures if you want. There's going to be some metal minis if I can find them scrolling down here. Ultimately, you don't really see the difference. They look the same. We have the regular game for $65, and we have $40 to get the metal minis over there. That's going to be reflected in the pledge levels of 65 for Transmissions Deluxe, or the all-in metal Transmissions Deluxe, which is going to run you an additional $35 or $34 if being technical to get those metal miniatures for the game. That's going to be Transmissions. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value, all of that stuff. A short version is similar to Vagrantsong before it, as well as Creature. Nope, not that one. Similar to Vagrantsong and what's the other one? I can't remember which is the other one. I don't remember the other one. We had another one, didn't we? Now I'm blanking. Final Girl. Similar to Vagrantsong and Final Girl and Beast for that matter. Not Vagrantsong. Wrong one. Similar to Beast and Final Girl. I apologize. This one's going to fall into a category where I found people who are able to get their original pledge back and then some, and I found people selling it for less. So it is a mixed bag. If you look on the secondhand market, eBay and BGG, there are people who were able to get what they paid back for it, and there are people who are getting less for it. This one drifted a bit more towards the less category, so I'm a little more skeptical that it'll hold its value, but you definitely can find instances of holding its value, which means if this is a game that's for you, or if this is a game that's calling your name, you will probably get most of your pledge back, but possibly not all of it. Again, those metal miniatures can help, because on the one hand it costs more, on the other hand those are hard to get your hands on, so if you find someone wanting those, that's going to be a little harder to find in the secondhand market as well, thus ensuring that you can pull or ask for a little more at the same time. So again, another one kind of in that mid-range category, certainly not a guarantee, but I certainly have found people selling it for what they paid for on the secondhand market. Lastly, we have Dark Tomb, Bloodthorn Island. 2,000 backers, $62,000 raised. This is a standalone game in the Dark Tome series, giving you more dungeon crawling adventures in your pocket. This is literally in your pocket. There's a tiny little cubes. That's 20-sided dice. You can get a sense over here of how big this is. This is continuing what Dark Tome started with, but continuing that adventure. You're going to have a tiny little board over here. You're going to have your little cards, your little ships, your little, like, you know, zones around the board, just moving your tokens, upgrading your characters, utilizing items. This is a dungeon crawler in a little tin that travels incredibly accessibly wherever you go. That's the core idea of it. That's the point of this game. The game is going to run you $20 for the game, and yes, they will have the original Dark Tomb available as well in the Pledge Manager if you want to go ahead and get your hands on that. As far as should you back and should you not, will it hold its value, I couldn't find much at all in the way of sales on this game on either BGG or on eBay, which means I have no idea. I mean, the game is very cheap, but I just can't find any evidence of it being sold at all in existence, so I'm sure it has been. But I would just put that in the strong risk category. It's a $20 game. It likely will not hold its value. It falls in that category of a cheaper game. They generally just don't do as well as far as being worth it down the road. But I just can't find guaranteed evidence one way or the other. So I guess I'm just going to say I can't find guaranteed evidence one way or the other. And that is everything we have over here for these campaigns. As far as a whole lot of campaigns, a longer video. They've been drifting a little longer recently again. I don't know if that's crafting in general. I will say next week there will not be a 2-back and not to back, by the way. Next week that's just not going to happen. We're going to have instead a I don't know, upcoming crowdfunding campaigns, I think. It's going to be a little overdue, but we'll figure it out. Either way, next week there's going to be Don't 2-back and Not to Back. I have too many holidays. I have WSBG. I have a lot of things. Even today, right now, today is Yom Kippur, High Jewish Holy Day and whatnot. I'm offline. I filmed this before Yom Kippur and all that. But yeah, so lots of holidays, lots of things going on, and a little too much. So next week there will not be a 2-back and Not to Back. But we are not done yet because we do have to choose our picks of the week. For our picks of the week, as usual, I pick two. I pick a value pick, the game that is most likely to hold its value, and then a personal interest pick of the week. And disclaimer on both of these, because I do work for Gamefound, but both these are Gamefound campaigns. At the end of the day, I always just pick what makes sense. For value pick of the week, I think it's going to be Dragon Eclipse. I don't think it's a hard decision over here. The only other one that's kind of viable is Final Girl, but Final Girl is a little bit more pick and choose as far as what you get. And even then, the price points, if you look on the secondhand market, the price points are decent, but not as good. I think Dragon Eclipse is the one that if you are interested in Dragon Eclipse, especially if you're interested in the miniatures and all that, this is the one that is the most likely to hold this value from all the games we've covered today. And again, I recognize Gamefound, Awakened Realms, I recognize all all that. But I think if you look at the numbers just support that, so it is what it is. And then secondly, if you're looking for my personal interest pick of the week, again, Beast over here. I love Beast well before it was on Gamefound. I love Beast when it was on Kickstarter, and I've still loved it very much since then. It is a really excellent game. Powers and abilities and hidden role. I think mind management, we'll talk more about it in a future video, but mind management is so clean at what it does, and it's so good at what it does, but Beast is so good in such a different way. They're very different experiences, but both phenomenal experiences, very much in their own right. Beast is easily my personal interest pick of the week. As far as upcoming campaigns, in general, I pick 1 or 2 campaigns to feature. I'm going to talk about Aberration first. 6,000 people following it. Aberration is going to be a tower defense bag building cooperative game. We already have a gameplay and a preview up on the channel. You can check those out. But past that, there's going to be Aberration. Oh, and so a disclaimer, they did paid content with the channel. But Aberration from Ghostfire Gaming will be launching on Gamefound tomorrow, so check that out. And then over on Kickstarter, we have a big one. We have Deep Rock Games, Deep Rock Galactic, the board game, Space Week, and Biome expansions. 11,000 people following it. Deep Rock Galactic has been incredibly well received from what I've seen from people following the campaign. Like I told you a year ago when this was on Kickstarter last time, I said if you're unsure, wait and see, and they'll come back to Kickstarter. And it is back on Kickstarter with an expansion, and now a whole lot more people who are very positive about their experience with Deep Rock Galactic. And that's everything. Until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I appreciate you being here. If you want to go ahead and check out the Unfair and Unbalanced over on Patreon. Over on Patreon, I try to convince you not to back any single one of these games by being as unfair and unbalanced as possible. It's not a fair and balanced approach. There's a whole disclaimer. You can watch that. But otherwise, until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I appreciate you being here. And as always, I hope you have a good one. My son asked me the other day, he was talking to me and he said, "Where does poo come from?" I was a little uncomfortable, but I gave him an honest explanation. I just broke it down. I gave him an honest explanation, went through the details. He looked a little perplexed, stared at me in stunned silence for a few seconds, and then said, "And Tiger?"